I looked up from my computer screen to see Robert Chen, CEO of Metro Tech Solutions, holding out his empty cup with that familiar condescending smile. Even after 6 years as his executive assistant, he still thought of me as nothing more than a coffee girl. "Right away, Mr. Chen," I replied, taking his cup. As I walked to the break room, I could hear him on the phone through his open office door. "Yes, Charles, the board meeting on Monday will be spectacular. I got something that will blow everyone away." I smiled to myself, knowing exactly what he was talking about. After all, I'd been the one who discovered the security flaw in our competitor's flagship product. Not that Robert would ever know that. "My name is Victoria Santos, and I've spent the last 6 years being underestimated at one of Silicon Valley's fastest-growing cybersecurity firms." While Robert Chen took credit for innovations and Marcus Webb, our CTO, paraded around as the company's technical genius, I quietly built an empire right under their noses. It started the day I overheard Robert telling the board that his secretary was cheap insurance, someone to handle the mundane tasks while the real talent did the important work. What he didn't know was that before taking this job, I'd earned my master's in computer science from Stanford and had 3 patents to my name. But sometimes being underestimated is the greatest advantage you can have. I returned with Robert's coffee, setting it on his desk next to the report he hadn't bothered to read yet. The same report that would be the centerpiece of Monday's board meeting. "Victoria, clear my schedule for tonight," Robert announced, straightening his tie. "The company gala starts at 7, and I need to prepare my speech about the Franklin Tech breakthrough." "Of course, Mr. Chen. Will Mrs. Chen be attending?" "Ex-Mrs. Chen," he corrected sharply. "The divorce was finalized last month. She got her settlement, and that's the end of it." He paused, then added with a smirk, "Though I'm bringing someone else. Amanda from marketing. Tried to seat her at the main table." I nodded, already knowing about Amanda. Just like I knew about the real reason for his divorce, the offshore accounts he thought no one could trace. Being invisible had its advantages, especially when you spent your evenings coding instead of attending happy hours. At my desk, I pulled up my private email account on my phone. A message from my investment manager confirmed what I'd been waiting for. The final share purchase had gone through. Through a series of shell companies and careful investments over the past year, I now own 28% of Metro Tech Solutions. Robert still held 31%, making him the majority shareholder, for now. The gala venue was spectacular. The San Francisco Museum of Modern Art's rooftop garden. I'd booked it months ago, though Robert took credit for the choice. Standing by the registration table in my simple black dress, I watched the company's elite arrive in their designer outfits and expensive jewelry. Victoria, such a dedicated employee, working even at the gala. Marcus Webb's voice carried that false warmth I'd grown so accustomed to. The CTO approached with his usual entourage of developers, all of them looking through me as if I were part of the furniture. "Someone has to make sure everything runs smoothly, Mr. Webb," I replied with a practiced smile. "That's what I love about you, Victoria, always knowing your place." He patted my shoulder condescendingly. "Oh, and I'll need those technical specifications for the Franklin Tech presentation first thing Monday morning." "They're already on your desk, sir. I left them there this afternoon." He waved dismissively, already turning away. "Good, good. See, best secretary in the business." I watched him join Robert at the main table, where Amanda from marketing sat in what should have been Mrs. Chen's seat. The board members were arriving now. Charles Montgomery, Rebecca Patel, and the others who'd rubber-stamped every one of Robert's decisions for the past decade. At precisely 8:30 p.m., Robert clinked his glass for attention. The room fell silent as he stood, adjusting his $5,000 suit. "Distinguished board members, valued employees, welcome to Metro Tech's annual gala." He paused for applause. "This Monday, we'll be announcing a breakthrough that will revolutionize our industry. The Franklin Tech vulnerability our team discovered will position us as the leaders in cybersecurity for the next decade." More applause. I noticed Marcus Webb shifting uncomfortably in his seat. He should be nervous, after all. He hadn't actually found that vulnerability. I had. "But tonight is about celebration," Robert continued. "About recognizing the brilliant minds that make Metro Tech great." He gestured to his table of executives, all preening under the attention. That's when Rebecca Patel, ever the troublemaker, spoke up. Robert, I heard rumors about a new major investor buying up shares. Care to comment? Robert's smile flickered slightly. Just market fluctuations, Rebecca. Nothing to worry about. Everything is under control. Besides, Marcus added with a laugh, we know everyone who matters in this industry. No outsider could possibly understand the value of what we're building here. Speaking of value, Robert cut in, his voice carrying across the room. I see our devoted secretary Victoria is still manning the registration desk. Come here, Victoria, take a bow. She's been with us 6 years. Proof that loyalty and knowing one's place are still valuable in today's world. Laughter rippled through the crowd. I felt every eye in the room on me as I stood there in my simple dress. You know, Robert continued, warming to his audience, Victoria here is the perfect example of finding the right level. Not everyone can be a tech genius or a business leader. Some people are just meant to support those who are. She's just a secretary who got lucky enough to work for a successful company. More laughter. Marcus raised his glass in mock salute. To Victoria, the best coffee maker in Silicon Valley. I smiled, thinking about the encrypted folder on my private server. About the shell companies and the share certificates. About the real source code for the Franklin Tech discovery. About Monday's board meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chen, I said quietly. See you Monday. Robert was already turning back to Amanda, dismissing me from his mind. But Rebecca Patel was watching me with curious eyes. She'd always been more observant than the others. As I drove home that night in my modest Toyota, deliberately kept to maintain appearances, I thought about the past 6 years. About every dismissive comment, every coffee run, every time they'd talked about sensitive information in front of me because I was just a secretary. Monday was going to be interesting. My phone buzzed with a text from my lawyer confirming our meeting tomorrow morning. In my apartment, I opened my laptop and began preparing the documents I'd need. The real Franklin Tech discovery documentation. The evidence of Robert's offshore accounts. The true ownership records of Metro Tech Solutions. Time to show them what a secretary can do. I whispered to my reflection in the darkened window, the San Francisco skyline glittering behind me like a promise of things to come. Monday morning dawned clear and bright over San Francisco's financial district. I arrived at Metro Tech's offices at 6:30 a.m., 2 hours before anyone else would show up. The cleaning staff nodded to me. They were used to seeing the dedicated secretary working early hours. I'd already cleared Robert's schedule for the morning, knowing he'd need time to prepare for his big presentation. At 8:15, he burst through the doors, coffee cup from his favorite cafe in hand. Victoria, where are the presentation materials? He barked, already heading to his office. On your desk, Mr. Chen, along with the updated shareholder attendance list for today's meeting. He barely glanced at the documents. If he had, he might have noticed something interesting about that attendance list. But Robert never did pay attention to details. That was what secretaries were for, after all. At 9:45, I got the text I'd been waiting for. In position. Ready when you are. Diana. Diana Chen, Robert's ex-wife, had been more than happy to help when I reached out last month, especially after I showed her proof of those offshore accounts he'd hidden during their divorce proceedings. The Metro Tech boardroom slowly filled with members and executives. I stood quietly in the corner, tablet in hand, ostensibly taking notes. Marcus Webb swaggered in last, throwing me a wink as he took his seat. Coffee, Victoria, Robert commanded, not even looking up from his phone. Actually, Mr. Chen, I said, my voice carrying clearly across the room, I think I'll take my seat at the table today. The room fell silent. Robert looked up, annoyance crossing his face. Victoria, we don't have time for jokes. The board meeting is about to start. Yes, it is. I moved to the empty chair at the far end of the table, and as a major shareholder, I should probably participate. What are you talking about? Marcus laughed nervously. Victoria, go get Robert's coffee. Rebecca Patel leaned forward, interest sparking in her eyes. Let her speak. I pulled out my phone and sent a quick text. Seconds later, the large display screen behind Robert lit up with a share ownership chart. As of this morning, I said calmly, I own 28% of Metro Tech Solutions through various investment vehicles. Add to that the 15% previously owned by Mrs. Chen, which she's agreed to sell to me. I paused as Diana Chen walked into the room, legal documents in hand. That makes me the majority shareholder. Robert's face turned an interesting shade of purple. This is impossible. You're a secretary. Actually, I said, pulling out my Stanford diploma and patent certificates, I'm a software engineer with a master's in computer science and 3 patents in cybersecurity protocols. I just happen to work as your secretary for the past 6 years. Marcus jumped to his feet. This is ridiculous. Robert, she's trying to hijack your presentation about the Franklin Tech vulnerability. About that, I pressed another button on my phone. The screen changed to show lines of code. I discovered that vulnerability 4 months ago, wrote the exploitation proof of concept myself. You'll find my digital signatures all through the code. I knew you wouldn't bother to check. The board members were whispering now, papers rustling as they examined the documents being passed around. Robert stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. I'll fight this. You can't just walk in here and... Robert, I cut in smoothly. Before you continue, you might want to look at the next document being distributed. It details your offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. The ones you hid during your divorce proceedings. The SEC would be very interested in those. He fell back into his chair, face ashen. Now then, I continued, let's talk about the real Franklin Tech presentation. The one that actually works, not the rushed copy Marcus put together last week. For the next hour, I walked the board through the technical details of the security vulnerability I discovered. I explained how it could be patched, how we could approach the affected companies, and how this could position Metro Tech as a leader in proactive security consulting. Rebecca Patel was the first to speak when I finished. This is impressive work, Ms. Santos. But why maintain the secretary pretense for 6 years? I smiled. Because people say the most interesting things when they think you're just part of the furniture. For instance, did you know that Marcus has been selling our proprietary code to competitors? I slid another folder across the table. Or that Robert has been backdating stock options. The room erupted in chaos. Security was called. Lawyers were summoned. By the end of the day, both Robert and Marcus were escorted from the building, their company accounts frozen pending investigation. I sat in Robert's former office, my new office, that evening, watching the sun set over the bay. A knock at the door made me look up. Rebecca Patel stood there, a knowing smile on her face. I always wondered why such an overqualified person would stay in that position, she said, entering the room. You played a long game. The best way to understand a system is from the ground up, I replied. Robert and Marcus were so busy looking important, they never noticed who was actually keeping the company running. And now, I gestured to the whiteboard where I'd sketched out my plans for Metro Tech's future. Now we build something real. No more stolen code, no more hidden accounts. Just solid technology and honest innovation. Rebecca nodded approvingly. The board's behind you. 100%. After she left, I walked to my old desk outside the office. My coffee mug still sat there, the one with World's Best Secretary that Robert had given me as a Christmas gift last year. I picked it up, smiling at the irony. In the coming months, Metro Tech underwent a transformation. We launched the Franklin Tech Security Consultation Program, helping dozens of companies protect their systems. Our stock price doubled, then tripled. The tech press called it a remarkable turnaround. I kept my old desk calendar, though. It sits on my new desk as a reminder. The last entry, written in Robert's handwriting, still makes me smile. 9:30 a.m. board meeting, get coffee. I did end up getting coffee that morning. I just made sure to get a cup for myself, too. After all, CEOs need their caffeine. The story spread through Silicon Valley's cocktail circuit, the secretary who secretly became a tech CEO. But that wasn't quite right. I was always a CEO, always an engineer, always a leader. I just waited for the right moment to step into the spotlight. These days, when I interview executive assistants, I always ask about their backgrounds, their dreams, their hidden talents. You never know, they might just be the next CEO in disguise. As for Robert and Marcus, last I heard, they were trying to launch a startup of their own. I wish them luck. They're going to need it, especially since their old secretary now owns most of their industry patents. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about building something so successful that they're forced to watch from the sidelines, remembering all those coffee runs they ordered, all those times they talked business in front of just the secretary. And sometimes the sweetest victory is knowing that they never saw you coming, even though you were right in front of them all along.